What is at the heart of your idea? Good morning.
Nick. The heart of the idea is this. When we had the vote on the withdrawal agreement a couple of weeks ago, it went down by that massive majority. But it seemed to me at the time that was deceptive, that in fact most of the votes against, certainly those from Conservative members of Parliament like me, were for one single reason. We were prepared to compromise on the withdrawal agreement. It's got faults, but we would compromise. The problem was this so-called Irish backstop, which is meant to be temporary if indeed it ever comes into being, but in practice, the way it is drafted, if we go into it, we could be trapped in it for good, and that was clearly unacceptable. So my amendment seeks to take that away and invites alternative arrangements to give surety about the Irish border.
Are you getting soundings that this might enjoy support here, and what about across the water in Brussels?
Well, one of the reasons that I have used the wording that is in the amendment is precisely that over the last couple of weeks, some of the noises coming from the EU negotiating side, Michel Barnier, some of the EU member state politicians have been starting to be a little bit more flexible, as though they are becoming a bit more open to negotiation as we come closer to the deadline. So, I've certainly spoken to the Prime Minister very early on in the process, spoken to senior DUP colleagues, and spoken to a great many Conservative MPs and a few Labour ones as well, just trying to find the thing that unlocks this deadlock and allows us to move forward. And the big objection we keep getting from the EU side is, why would we make a concession when we don't know what the British Parliament would accept? So what I'm aiming for is a vote tomorrow on my amendment, which will be passed, which will then allow the Prime Minister to go back to Brussels armed with the proof that there is something that can get through the House of Commons, and I think that'll strengthen her hand immensely.
How confident are you? How important is it that your amendment is selected by the Speaker?
It's very important that it's selected by the Speaker.
How confident are you?
Well, I think it will be, because I think the Speaker will recognise this is one of, broadly, whilst there are many amendments down, there are two that are gaining most attention. There's mine, which seeks to unlock the Brexit process and move it forward on the timetable that has already been set out. And there's the so-called Cooper-Bowles amendment, which potentially sets the whole thing back by several months, and in my view would weaken the negotiating position, as well as leaving us with several months of uncertainty. So I feel as though my amendment is something a lot of colleagues are saying they will support it. A lot of people will be putting their names down on the amendment today. The more the better. That makes selection more likely. But crucially, then, we need to try to win the vote tomorrow. And I really hope the government will come in behind it.